Salt and pepper, peppers and peas, soap and water, baby got to do the two.
Most people think that you can't have desserts when on a healthy diet, but today I'm gonna show you how to have your cake and eat it too. And in this instance, we're gonna do a strudel. When selecting your sweet potatoes, make sure to look for a sweet potato that has a nice firm shape. It does not have any sprouts or bad eyes on it. You also want to make sure that the heavier the sweet potato, the more moisture that it's going to hold. Also, make sure that you choose sweet potatoes of uniform size so that when we're dicing them, they cook uniformly. First, you want to cut the sweet potato down the middle. After cutting the sweet potato in half, you're going to make slices in threes of 1/2 of the sweet potato. And then you want to go perpendicular and cut 1/2-inch dices. Next, we're going to take our diced sweet potatoes and place them on a half sheet pan lined with parchment paper. Parchment paper can be purchased at any local grocery store. Please make sure not to use wax paper as it can easily burn in the oven. Now you just want to make sure that these sweet potato dices are evenly spread out on the pan. And now we're ready to place them in the oven for approximately 30 minutes until tender. Next, we're going to increase the temperature of our oven to 450 degrees. This is the temperature we'll need for when we cook the finished strudel dough. Now that our sweet potatoes are cooked, we're going to begin combining our additional ingredients. After your potatoes have cooled to touch, next we'll combine our additional ingredients, which is a 4th teaspoon of nutmeg, 1½ ounces of golden raisins, 1/2 ounce of honey, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon.
As quickly as you can.
Now when selecting your honey, make sure to speak to your local farmer's market because honey, you do not want to use a caramelized honey as it has more sugar and it can be slightly more sweeter. Now that your ingredients have been poured into the sweet potatoes, you want to make sure that you get a nice even coating on all of your sweet potatoes. So make sure you mix it really well. Now we're ready for the strudel dough. We're going to be using 3 sheets of phyllo dough that can be purchased at your local grocery store in the freezer section. Now the key to phyllo dough is you want to use it directly when it's out of the refrigerator. If you leave it out too long, it has a tendency to dry up and can cause cracking along the edges. Next, we'll be using unsalted butter to basically add a little coating to our phyllo dough, which is going to prep the surface when we add our cheese and our filling. You want to use a pastry brush and lightly coat the phyllo dough, approximately 1/3 at first. Next, we're going to take about 2 ounces of goat cheese and spread this along the buttered side of the phyllo dough. Now be very gentle when spreading the goat cheese as it can easily rip the phyllo dough. Now make sure that your goat cheese is at room temp so it's easy to spread along the phyllo dough. Now if you're not a fan of goat cheese, you can always use alternatives such as cream cheese or mascarpone cheese, but remember, it's a little bit sweeter. Next, you want to take your sweet potato mixture, and you'll probably be using about 2 spoonfuls to spread along on the top of the goat cheese. Now make sure not to go too close to the edge because you don't want the filling to come out of the phyllo dough. So we're going to go ahead and make our first roll with the strudel dough, and you're going to make 1 complete roll. And we're going to repeat the same process. Now make sure that when you're ready to do the closing for your phyllo dough, you put a slight coating of butter along the very edge on the other 1/3 of the phyllo dough so we can make sure that it closes properly for cooking. So now we're going to go ahead and make our final roll to the very edge. We want to make sure that the edge of the phyllo dough is at the bottom of the strudel because we want to make sure that it stays closed during the cooking process and we can make sure that the filling doesn't roll out. Make sure to put your strudel dough on a slant on the half sheet pan. Now we're going to put a little bit more butter on top of the strudel to give it a nice golden color while it bakes. And then you also want to take a little butter, dab it on the edges of the phyllo dough to seal the edges. Lastly, we'll be scoring the strudel dough to add ventilation to the strudel dough. Now this is going to allow the steam to escape while it's cooking. Now I'm going to cut mine on a bias, which is basically a diagonal cut. I'm going to put 5 cuts along the top of the phyllo dough. If you do not have a scoring device, you can easily use cooking scissors to cut vents along the top of the phyllo dough. We're going to go ahead and place our strudel into the oven for approximately 30 minutes or until lightly browned on the top. Let's go ahead and check our strudel. Look how beautiful. And look here, exactly what we wanted, a nice light brown golden crust on our strudel. So now we're going to go ahead and plate our strudel. And you can just smell that cinnamon and those wonderful raisins come right through that dough. Strudel. And this is lovely served with a little whipped cream and a dash of mint. My name is Malonna Peters with Louisiana Culinary Institute, and this is your sweet potato strudel, and this is how we do the tea.